I'm sorry if it's all been a bit depressing up to now and a bit sort of all about trauma, trauma, trauma. What's important, though, that you understand is that these things are reversible. And even if you have a traumatic component to your chronic pain or your whatever your condition is, there are lots of things you can do about it, and that's what the second half is going to be more about. So, yeah. But it's important that you know that trauma does not always manifest, obviously, and lots of unexplained symptoms, I believe, are traumatic in origin. Actually, I'm gonna move through that one because sleep is important. Amygdala, emotions, you don't know why, but you feel suddenly overwhelmed. That's enough of that. So the symptoms you might get might be things like flashbacks, as I started with when I talked about the lady on the table. Anxiety is an absolutely classic example of a traumatically triggered implicit memory, but all you feel is suddenly anxious and you don't know why. So it's definitely something you have to kind of work with the body here to sort out. Phobias. I had a lady sitting with me today. She's scared of the train, flying, timetables, which is really interesting. Just generally, lots of things that seem odd to her, but we'll get there. We'll find out where this is coming from. And chronic pain, which is anything that lasts over 3 months, I think is a classic neurological sign of unresolved emotional trauma. IBS and gut problems. In fact, many cases it can come on quite quickly before pain. And things that you wouldn't think of, like facial tics, tinnitus ringing in the ears, and vertigo, that awful feeling of dizziness. I had awful vertigo when I first got ill, and I had lots of pills and potions, and none of them really did anything. But now I know, of course, because the vagus nerve innervates that part of the head and neck, including the middle ear. When it gets triggered, it gives you dizziness, it gives you difficulty in focusing, it gives you ringing in the ears. These can all be signs that your emotional memory has been triggered, but you won't know why. Brain fog, chronic fatigue, yeah, we all know. So emotional memories are stuck because they keep your body on permanent alert. They're a stress response in this vagal system. And you might start with things like sensitivity to light or noise. I used to have that from very early on, from when I was very little. I was also terribly travel sick all the time, all the time. I could not travel in coaches. Chemicals, I'm still sensitive to chemicals, so petrol smells, paint fumes, and a terrific startle response. And actually the same lady that I was talking about at the beginning, when she first came to see me, I started from a bedroom in my home before I sort of built a proper clinic, and my cat, unbeknown to us, was behind her sitting in his little windowsill, which he likes to do on a sunny morning. And he decided during her consultation it was time to come out and kind of like say hello to the world. And she jumped an absolute mile, and all he did was brush past her, and she had a terrifically enhanced startle response there. Now, if you ignore those symptoms, which I did, you are likely then to, the body then has to do something with them, and it sends them deeper. So they start peripheral, you go deeper. And so you will start to get anxiety, you will start to get insomnia and headaches and migraines. I always had terrible migraines. Pain, gut issues, allergies, it goes on and on. And eventually, if you do nothing and you fail to sort of address these things, you go into freeze and your energy production gets shut down. So you've kind of got the idea. I wanted to show you why energy production shuts down, and also why this is a really fascinating bit of biology. And I'm sorry if some of you are really turned off by science, but I just think it's great. So I'm going to do it anyway. It's very quick. Mitochondria exist in your... Ooh, what happened there? That's weird. We're missing a picture. Okay, never mind. Something's gone wrong with the animation. Mitochondria are these little organelles in your cell that produce energy from oxygen. And if I just go on to that one, you'll see that's what they look like. And then I'm going to go back again, because it shouldn't have worked like that. But they are actually a remnant of a bacterium that combined with one of the first ever animal cells way back about 300 million years ago when evolution was happening. And so they gave to us the ability to produce high energy from oxygen, which we didn't have until then. Animal cells didn't have that. They were living in a low oxygen environment. And it was bacteria combining with us that gave us the ability now to produce a good amount of energy normally. So we still have this little organelle in our body, and it has its own DNA. I don't know if any of you knew that. When I read that, it was like, oh, really? I thought all the DNA was in the nucleus. Not true. Some of it's in the mitochondria. And it's handed down from the maternal line. It comes from your mother. Interesting, I thought. Given, you know, my situation, it's like, okay, so if she's had trauma, and her mother before her, because that's another story which I won't go into, the message is being passed down through this maternal link in the mitochondrion. So it's a really interesting story, which I haven't got time to go into here. It's all in the book. But it shows you that these messages of threat come in many, many different ways, and they're not all in our own lifetime. Some of them come from our previous lifetimes or our, you know, ancestors' lifetimes. So when the mitochondria gets stressed, it stops energy production. Not completely, you're still able to do your essential services. You know, you're still able to pump your blood around your heart, but you have got really low blood pressure, or you struggle when you get up and try and move. And things like digestion, well, they're a luxury as far as the body's concerned. So that's why you get a lot of digestive issues. So it's not a good thing when your mitochondria start to shut down, as I can testify. You feel awful. And that's the basis of chronic fatigue and fibro as well. So what can we do then? After all the doom and gloom, reversing the message of threat is the main priority in healing. We have to reduce this stress response, which is called the cell danger response, and it switches aerobic to anaerobic production, and it's so much less efficient. It can hardly produce enough energy. And so everything's affected, your brain fog, your circulation and digestion. So it is my contention that mitochondrial dysfunction, or as it's termed, mitochondriopathy, is at the heart of most chronic disease. I would certainly say autoimmune conditions, Alzheimer's, chronic fatigue and cancer. So you've got all these internal toxins from your liver, how it tries to detoxify your body, and even in your mitochondria when they're trying to produce oxygen, energy from oxygen, they also produce all these free radicals. And if your diet is poor, which it often is when you're stressed, as you know, what do you tend to eat when you're stressed? Chocolate, sugar, caffeine, you know. So nutritionally, you start to really become depleted, and your levels of antioxidants can't mop up all these free radicals. So stress causes inflammation in your body, which largely is affected through a rise in cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and it becomes a real problem. But importantly, I just wanted to say, negative thoughts are just as bad as feeding your body with poor food. And so if you only address changing your diet, but you're still telling yourself that you're a waste of space and you don't deserve to be here, it's very unlikely that you're actually going to get healthy. And so, part 2, what you can do about it. Detoxification. So physical cleansing is really important. And when I started going down that road, I went on a week's juicing week, you know, a juicing fast kind of thing, which I'd never done in my life. And I can tell you, it was hell. we turned up at this place. It had just opened in Winchester. I don't think it's running now, but the lady was very enthusiastic. She was like, well, welcome, you know, I hope you're not expecting food tonight. It was like, yes, we were. So she said, oh, I'll do a quick blend. She did us a blend. And then it was 3 days of liquid food, basically, which my body went into meltdown. I had never experienced the flu symptoms. I was on the sofa with a blanket shivering for most of those 3 days, and people would come in and go, oh, she doesn't look too good. She's like, no, I feel rubbish. But when I got through that 3 days and my body was able to really cleanse, I remember going for a walk on the 4th day into the forest, and I'm not joking, but everything was glowing. I could see the fungi glowing, I could see the mushrooms and the mosses, and everything was communicating with me. And I was thinking, I'm either hallucinating here, or something about the fact that I have cleansed my body means that my spirit and my mind are now really receptive to what's going on. So physical cleansing is really important, and we mostly start with that, because that gets you receptive then to the other stuff. But if you miss out the emotional stuff, that's where you get into problems. So all of this stuff is really key. So nutrition, increasing the nutrient density of your foods, because most of us, if we're eating a normal, regular diet, we are eating poor quality food, which is denuded over 50 or 60 years of industrial farming. Our soils don't contain the minerals that we need, let alone, you know, what happens in storage and packing and cooking. So we have to start changing the way we eat and ignoring most of the foods in the supermarket in the middle aisles and just shopping on the outsides where the vegetables and fruits are, and hopefully organic if you can go to organic. Doing regular cleanses. I'd like to say I do a regular cleanse. I haven't actually done one for about a year now because they are quite tough for me. My liver, I seem to be genetically quite a poor detoxer, and that makes my liver very susceptible. And I feel rubbish on cleanses. Some people sail through them and they're like, oh, I feel great. It's like, not me. I feel terrible. I get awful headaches and so on. So I do try and do them, but I'm not as good as I should be. Reducing your EMF exposure, if you're sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies, and I've got a few wristbands that I brought with me today. I should be wearing mine. That's really bad. It's because I had a wash before I came and I took everything off. Anyway, microdots or energy dots I use, but there are various other ways you could use magnets or whichever your preferred option is. But you need to be conscious that we are living in an overburdened world, and particularly now in wireless homes, where, you know, God forbid we're going to start to get, everything's going to be wireless eventually. It's going to call our name when we walk in the door, turn all the lights on for us, you know. Already we're getting a lot more wireless frequencies from just internet connections. So you really need to consider that really carefully and put some things on your laptops and your smartphones, and do not wear them around your heart. Some people do. They wear them in, you know, knapsacks or whatever, and on your body. Don't wear your phones on your body. And if you have to make long calls, don't do it from your mobile. You know, holding them against your head is just not a good idea. On the leaflets I've got on the table, it shows you a picture of a head heating up after use of mobile phone, and then with the energy dot applied to it, it takes down the EMF considerably. So that's really important. Hydration. You've seen me, I have been drinking water. But it's better if it's warm and not cold, particularly if you have any thyroid or adrenal issues, which a lot of women tend to do. Heating up water, if you take in really cold water, it's actually quite hard and stressful for your body to have to heat it up. So warm water is actually better for you. It allows your cells to actually regenerate better, which is a thing called autophagy or autophagy if you're American. Sleep, I've mentioned sleep before, but sleeping on your side is really key to drain your brain in your lymphatics. And the left side seems to be better. We don't quite know why, but I don't know which side you sleep on. I do both. But it helps to restore your mitochondria. So getting your sleep right is so key in any form of recovery. Breathing seems so obvious, but of course most of us breathe up here. and we do so shallowly, particularly because right now I'm a little bit stressed because I'm standing in front of you all, so I'm going, so I'm not breathing very well. When I make an effort, I try and breathe from my belly, and sometimes I also do breathing exercises, alternate nostrils, and those sort of yogic breathing techniques, pranayama and so on. What they do, interestingly, it's not just generally good for you, it actually rebalances your autonomic nervous system. So your parasympathetic versus your sympathetic, and it helps to bring you into rest and digest. We all know exercise is good for us, and I put yoga in brackets because I think it's one of the better ones. But if you don't like yoga, then it's not good for you. If you're sat there going, oh, I really hate this, is so boring, the best exercise for you is the one that you will do and the one that you love. So if it's cycling or running or, I don't know, going to the gym or whatever it is, do that exercise, but find something that you enjoy. And then obviously, clean diet, making sure that you do not eat between probably 8, 9 p.m. at night and first thing in the morning. If you're eating right until the point when you go to bed, that's a huge stress on your body. You need a fasting window is what they call it, and that allows, again, these mitochondria and cellular regeneration to happen. And then finally, one thing I'm really fond of, and I don't know if any of you do this, but is infrared saunas, which have just kind of hit the UK in the last 10 years or so. Very popular in Scandinavia. America has had them for a long time. It's very different to a steam sauna. Has anybody been to have you ever been to a sauna that didn't have steam? It's like just a general warmth, that kind of thing. There is one in Southampton. I go to it. It's at the Aegeus Bowl. It's the Hilton there. They have a what they call a bio sauna. Infrared is a natural warming heat. It's the heat of the sun, and it seems to vibrate with the same vibrational frequency as your own cells. So it feels totally different to be in an infrared sauna. I can't bear steam saunas. They make me really uncomfortable. But because it happens at a much lower temperature and it just sort of heats your body gently, it's very, very powerfully detoxifying, and you only need to be in there 5 to 10 minutes. You don't need to be in there an hour, and you just start to gently sweat, and you go and wash that off, and that gets rid of a hell of a lot of heavy metals out of your body. It's very good for people who've got mercury toxicity, which I have, because I did have quite a lot. And emotional detoxification then. Whew, here we go. So here's the good bit. Finding inspiration. Have you ever thought about the derivation of the word inspire? Because it came to me recently because I watched a YouTube video. It's bringing spirit in, inspire. Bringing spirit back into your life. However you do that, finding a purpose and a meaning and a connection with other people. And you know, that's the thing that this illness did for me, because I had been a kind of person who didn't believe she needed anyone. I didn't need anyone. I would just manage my life. I would carry on and carry on. And then, of course, when I got ill, I couldn't cope, and I had to let people into my life. I had to start talking about my emotions, which was really, really hard. But finding that is really key. Choosing positive people to be around, and here we are, everyone here, really positive. It's called positive living, isn't it? Yay! It's called Inspirations Positive Living. Even better. The energy in this room is just so wonderful, and it does make a difference to your physiology. It's not just a mental process. You are bouncing around with loads of good energy right now, and your little microbes are all happy, and your lymphatics are ready to drain. You know, this does make a difference. You're going to sleep well tonight, I hope. And developing a spiritual practice, and that doesn't always mean, you know, meditation. It can be gardening. Gardening is my thing, by the way. I absolutely love it. When I'm gardening, I forget time. I do not think about, sometimes I mull over stuff, but it's always in a very contemplative, peaceful way, because I'm focused on the plants and the soil and the birds and the trees, and it's just, it's the thing that keeps me sane. If I wasn't a gardener, I think I would struggle, because I see so much hardship and trauma and distress. So developing something that gives you connection to the earth, to life, to positivity. And, of course, dealing with your emotional stuff. So emotional toxins then are these old subconscious beliefs which you probably don't even know you're carrying. Mine was, it's shameful to be weak, okay? And I saw being ill as being weak. And I was full of shame. I was so full of shame. I still got some, but I've got rid of a lot of it. Internal conflicts. So, you know, this happens a lot, say, when your parents get older and you love them, but, oh, God, it's a pain. You know, it's awful when they're ill and they need looking after and you've got your life and you really want to be living, but you can't. That's an internal conflict, just an example. There are many others. Toxic relationships, people that drain you. We call them the energy vampires. Does anyone know anybody like that? Hopefully not. They're the ones that tell you all about what's going on in their life and it's also terrible. And they kind of suck the air out of the room, don't they? And you're like, oh, this is hard work. Trying to sort of limit those kinds of, don't feel you've got to be helpful to everybody. And that's really as true of me as it is to anyone, because I do work with some people, but some people I can't help because they're not right for me. And a lack of meaning. And this is so massive in life today. This is depression all over, isn't it? People have no meaning left. You know, they have no good community relationships. They're just trying to get through and pass the exams to kind of get the good job, to get the good life. But what does any of it mean if you can't connect with other people and feel joy? Where is the joy? So how do you do it? I knew you were going to ask me that. In order to heal then, you've got to make this unconscious stuff conscious, but you've got to do it in a really safe way and feel really connected to who you are and your own process. So we've said that. So what I use, and this is just me, so I'm not saying for any by any means that this is the only way to do it. There are so many different ways of approaching these problems. And some of you have already come up to me and said, you know, I do it differently. I use a form of treatment called EMDR, which I found to be really powerful for emotional memory. And it's eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So you'll forget that immediately. It uses this notion that the eyes, when I told you about children and their mother and safety, communicate that. And we use movement to signify the consolidation of those memories. It brings up old memories that you've forgotten and it restores them in the right place in your brain. Instead of being stored in your alarm system, they get laid down properly and you resolve them. And what is really fascinating about EMDR is it happens really quickly. I had a lady in today and we were doing some and she's convinced she can't be healed, you know, I'm too bad, I'm too far gone. She's 38, you know. I said, nobody is that far gone, you know. Come in, you know, you're only too far gone when you're dead, basically. So we did it, but she was convinced it wouldn't work for her. I could see that. She was just going through the motion, quite literally, like, mm-hmm. And then we stopped, and I said, take a breath. And she just said, oh, something just popped into my mind. It's probably not relevant. I was like, yes! Tell me that thing. And she told me the thing. And it was highly relevant. It was an old memory that she'd buried. And she said, right, I'm going to write that down. Because we didn't have time to deal with it fully in that one session because it was her first session of EMDR. But it's a really powerful tool. And we don't quite know how it works. There are many theories. I've gone into some of them, the ones that I found when I wrote the book. I was very interested to find out for myself, but we don't really know how it works. We just think it somehow activates the limbic system and allows things to be reconfigured so that you don't lose the memory, but you lose the emotional pull. So you can think of that thing and it not feel so terrible. And then you can get on with your life. The other method I use, and I often use these concurrently or in the same session, I know I'm a maverick in that because not many people do that, but if I get somebody coming into me and they're so anxious they can't follow my fingers because they're thinking I feel awful, then I will start tapping with them. And tapping, emotional freedom technique, is a way that we can calm, again, the limbic system, but it's really visceral because you kind of do it on the head and the neck and the face, and you get tapping, and it sort of programs the body into a sense of calm. So it really grounds them.
And it actually changes the form of the blood muscles and everything.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. Yeah, it has amazing effects. It's one of the most powerful things. Every child should be taught how to tap, in my opinion, from school. You know, you feel unhappy, you're angry, you're depressed, whatever. Learn to tap these things away. Then they're gone. They're gone, and you can...
I saw a lady in the hospital the other day tapping on the
Really?
the lift.
Yeah, I do it surreptitiously sometimes, but, you know, mostly you can get away with doing it, but sometimes you have to take yourself away and just do it quietly. Rebirthing, has anyone ever done rebirthing? Have you ever heard of it? Yeah, okay. When I was on my week detox, I went and had a rebirthing session, and it was one of the most weirdly strange experiences of my life. And all it is breathing. They take you through a breathing protocol where you hyperventilate, and it sort of seems to trigger something in your brain, akin to, I guess, being on an acid trip. But it's really quite phenomenal because it's not frightening. It's as if you go into a new realm of consciousness. And in this new realm of consciousness, I felt people in the room holding me. There was only one person in the room with me, the guy that was doing it with me, but I felt many pairs of hands, and I said, there are many people here, and he said, yes, there are, I feel them too. Now, I am not that kind of person. I wasn't at that point. That really threw me because I could feel their presence, and I knew I was being held. And I've carried that through with me, and it's given me a great deal of courage when I'm working with people to feel really, this is my life's work, but I'm not in danger because I know I'm being held. So rebirthing was pretty amazing. And there are some other things. We're going to do a bit of havening in a minute. But the main thing for you to do is to cultivate a life of safety. And that doesn't mean not doing great things. In fact, it's the opposite. It means going out and being the person you were born to be. Nurturing yourself, making time for self-love, whatever it is that floats your boat. For me, I like yoga, I love music, so I'm often kitchen dancing. Does anyone else do kitchen dancing? Yeah, I'm great, I am. But it's fun, it's fun. Creative expression, well, for me, that's writing, and that's part of the reason I did the book, because I love to write. I just love words, so it was really easy for me in a way. And prioritizing being over doing. How many of you have been to parties and someone will say, so what do you do? It's like, oh, don't ask me that. Because if people ask me that, I've got about 5 things, so it's always a bit difficult. But, you know, more importantly, who are you? What lights you up? That's a much better question. What do you love to do? And in life, we need to stop being judged by what we do, but more who we are. Prioritizing love in every way we can over fear. We are so full of fear now as a society. We've seen, you know, a lot of changes this year. It's been a phenomenal year for fear. Fear of the other, fear of invasion. Let's put a wall up. Fear is very big, and it sells because all of us are limbic to some degree. All of us are fearful. But we can start to reverse that, not by fighting it. That doesn't work. You have to prioritize love. You stand in love when you fight fear. You don't fight fear with fear. So, I hope this is getting a bit more positive. Gratitude, forgiveness, and connection are key to healing, and they're the bits that I kind of didn't do initially because I was so scared. And I am so grateful for my illness now. I don't always feel 100% even now, but I'm so grateful for the message it gave me and this ability now to learn about myself and realize that I am more than the sum of my body. You know, I am far deeper and greater than that. And hopefully you've got an idea today. We're going to do a little demo in a minute of getting in the flow. Getting in the flow is a sort of term you'll have heard used, but it's whenever you lose time. So you're doing something and you're not thinking about what time it is or where you have to be. So for some people it can be fishing or as I've said, dancing or art. You need to do this more often, and you need to prioritise that in your life. It is not a luxury, it is an essential for health and well-being. People who live wholeheartedly make time for this, and that's my aim, and it's my aim for you as well. It changes your brain waves to alpha states, and they're healing, and they're also, by the way, I learnt the other day, the same frequency as the Earth's crust resonates at, which I thought, wow, so then we're in harmony with the Earth as well when we're in the flow. You know when you're in the flow because things tend to go right for a change, you know, and the right people come and good things happen. I didn't know any of this before. I was living a life of danger. I was always waiting for the next thing to happen that was bad. So we're going to do a little demo. You up for a demo? I'm going to start with some havening, which is, I'm going to close that. Can I turn that off? Oh no, I won't turn it off because there's a reason I won't turn it off. No. Okay, so havening is a touch-based system, and I use this a lot with people if they come into me and they're feeling quite uncomfortable because they don't know me and I'm not safe for them at this point in time because they don't know enough about me. And it starts with just holding yourself around the shoulders, and then you just stroke down the arms. And what's really important while you're doing that is you say out loud, if you can, I am safe. I'm safe in my body. And I'm safe in my life. And I'm willing to heal. And then just take a breath and shake it off. And I don't know if you're the same as me, but that has a profound effect on my body. I get a bit of a shiver, the back of my neck, a bit of like tingly feeling. That's your body telling you that touch is safety. And how many therapists have you been to who do not touch you? Because they're told you can't touch. It's not in the ethical... yeah. They will not touch you because they're told it's important not to get too close to the client and da-da-da. I don't do that. I'll ask permission because a person isn't always happy to be touched, but and then I'll go by body signals. If someone feels like they need comfort, I'll just touch them lightly and say, it's okay, you're safe, because some of this stuff is quite painful. But havening, it's wonderful. There is a much longer protocol with eye movements, and I didn't go into that because it'd be a bit complicated for here, but just for you to notice how your body responds to that and how different that feels after you've done it. It's quite a new technique. It came out about 5 years ago from the States, but I use it a lot. I find it really powerful. No, it's quite new. It's not so... I tell you who does use it, Paul McKenna. He does it with the stop smoking and the stop emotional eating protocol. In fact, if you want to see a really good example of havening, it's in all his CDs and books now. So he's really taken it on because it's very powerful because it brings you in contact again. Sorry, yeah.
Can you just repeat the 4 stages that you just went through?
Oh, okay. So the words are up to you. These are words I use, okay? I am safe. I'm safe in my body, safe in my life, and I'm willing to heal. But it could be anything that feels troubling for you, but safety has to be in there somewhere. Because most people who come in who are suffering anxiety or, you know, unwanted feelings do not feel safe. They've never felt safe in their life. And so it's the first step. And when you see someone transform in front of you, when you've just given them that message that they are safe, it can be really moving. But the words themselves, you can adapt them to the person and to, you know, if you look it up, you'll see there are loads of different scripts out there that you can use. But that's just the one I use because it just works for me, because I believe safety is the beginning part of healing. And then EFT, do you all know tapping? So I'll usually start with whatever the problem is. This pain in my, and you have to be really specific, in my left arm. I don't actually have a pain in my left arm, but just as an example. And sometimes you might give it a characteristic, like this burning pain. this block of lead in my leg. Because the more graphic you get and the more metaphorical you get, the more your limbic system gets it. Your limbic system does not work in words, it works in images and feelings. And so you have to talk in that language. It has to be in the present, it has to be your words and your language. And sometimes we swear. You know, if the client comes into me and says, I'm bloody pissed off, yeah, I'm bloody pissed off, it could be worse than that. Because the words are really, really key, because they are the truth for that person. And so that's why very early on, I used to start with a script that I downloaded, you know, from the internet. So we used to go through the script, and I wasn't getting great results. I've decided now I don't usually use the script. I work with people as they are when they come to me, and we get better, quicker, faster results. And that actually is called faster EFT, which I use. So it does away with some of the complications of EFT. It's very useful. So anyway, time for questions, if anybody has any. Yes?
The tapping.
Yes.
Is it important where you tap?
Well,
and how frequent you tap?
Yeah, I tell you what, I think the books will tell you sort of 6 or 7 taps in certain specific places. Some people start on top of the head. Some people do this one under the arms. I don't tend to do that because it gets a bit complicated with big-breasted ladies, so we avoid that one. Particularly if I'm tapping on them as well, because that can be a bit too intimate. It needs to be a significant point around the head and face, and we do have specific tapping points because I think neurologically they're probably areas of high intensity. The sort of Chinese version of that is they're on meridians. But I think if you're going to do tapping, I've had a lot of people come and say, oh, I couldn't do it because I kept forgetting how many times I'd done it, and then I kept forgetting what to say, and I was like, don't worry about that stuff. Just start doing it and get, you know, I don't do 6 or 7, I do more on some bits than others. I don't find that makes a difference. It's the intention and the purpose and the words that you're saying and the feelings you're feeling when you're doing it that are more important than the number of times. But yes, we do have specific points. They're quite key because they're an energetic point on the body.
Quite a lot on YouTube, isn't there?
Oh God, loads.
But I wouldn't know who to recommend. There's probably loads.
I like the Tapping Solution people. I'm trying to think of their name. There's a brother and sister. Thank you. Nick and what's her name? She's written a book on emotional eating. She's sister. Yes, she did tapping for weight loss. Yeah, so they're quite good. American.
The original guy. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
Not to worry too much about, like you say.
No, that's right. I think people can get very hung up on technique. Yeah, intention is more important than technique. And working with someone that you feel is linked to you and is holding you in the highest light. You know, I always say to people, I see them well. When they sit in front of me, I see them well, and then we work towards that. So that's more important, really. Anyway, that's it. Final thing. You've heard all that before. And thank you for listening. We've said questions, so there you go. So,
Is there any?
oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you. So, thank you, yeah.
Do you think most people can be healed?
Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe most people can be healed. Having said that, there are some people, they're in such a mire that you really do, you struggle a little bit at first because you've got to get them out of the mire. The clog they've got into of self-doubt, illness, hatred of themselves and their own situation. But yes, I don't think we're on this earth to live ill. I think we're here to heal. And sometimes it can be hard work, but yeah, I always say to people, there's no one that can't heal. It's whether you're willing, really. And some people are not. It has to be said. They're not. Most people, if I said, come and have some emotional healing, if I did a straw poll in Sainsbury's, they'd be like, you're joking. Why? There's nothing wrong. Yeah, I'm fine. So, it's probably about 10% of people that are aware they have a problem, and, maybe another 10% of that are willing to do something about it. So it is all about intention and willingness. But yes, I believe you can with that in place. Good question. Yeah, finally, yeah.
First of all, thank you very much, because this is the first time I find all that information put together in one place.
Yeah.
I've sort of seen those bits and pieces, but from different people, and they all have their own little niche.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's lovely to see it all
Oh,
together.
thank you. Yeah, yeah.
That was the first thing.
Yeah, great.
On one of the pages, I noticed you wrote, sorry if I'm going into the detail, no, it's not really detail.
No, no.
A trauma becomes imprinted in the amygdala permanently.
Yeah.
And I kind of, my heart sank a bit.
Well, unless mitigated, star. Yeah.
So there might be a memory, but
Yeah.
the response, is it where the healing can happen? The actual response of the body can become less and less, and so we can still maybe remember it happened, but we don't quite react in the same way.
Yeah, but actually once it restores itself, it's almost instant. For each memory, obviously you've got layers and layers and layers of memory, different memories related to different emotions. You can't heal all that in one go, but each memory can be healed almost instantly. So as soon as the amygdala fires up and the memory comes into your consciousness, and then you resolve it with one of these techniques, it's solved. That particular memory is solved, and the amygdala is destimulated for that particular memory.
So it's still in it, but
It doesn't trigger your stress response. So you still remember it, but like, you know, you can say, my father left home or whatever, but it has no emotional, it's like, yeah, it happened a long time ago and I'm at peace with that now. That's how it feels. So it's very different.
So what's your thoughts on autism? Because my son was diagnosed at the age of 3.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have had any trauma before that, really.
Birth. I didn't even mention birth trauma, but there's a really...
He didn't have a traumatic birth.
No, good, okay, but that is definitely linked to autism. I mean, it could be that there's a microbiological reason, like in the gut can be very imbalanced, which particularly, not casting blame on you, but if you're...
Just for other people's enjoyment,
Yeah.
can we just listen to Patricia just for a minute?
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, so it can be the gut responding, you know, that is out of balance, and that affects obviously the brain neurotransmitter levels, and then that can become fixed.
But he did have the MMR, but then I didn't
Yeah.
notice anything at first.
It's not always immediate. Now, this is a very controversial area, as you know. My feeling is it's a multifactorial problem. It's a perfect storm of events that happen in a child's life. So some people will have the MMR and be fine. Other children will have it, but because of their particular genetic makeup, their particular traumatic history, if they've had one, their sensitivity, which is a sort of personality trait that comes in fairly early on, we think. All of that can combine to make some children more sensitive, and the response of the brain can be quite severe, which is often autism.
It's their life path as well, and it's something that they were born into, that they've got to learn and teach others around them as well.
I think that's one way of definitely looking. You know, when I say healing, I don't always mean curing. Healing is not always curing. Healing is coming up to a basis of peace with who you are in life. And some people have to die to do it, and some people can manage it in their lifetime, but it's not always about getting rid of the thing. It can sometimes be coming to a point of a deeper sense of purpose, you know, and maybe that's part of his purpose in your life and his life, I don't know. So that's a really big question you fired at me right at the end. Sorry.
Could I just say that lady
Oh, yeah.
autism that Dr. Dietrich Clean Heart has done a lot of work
Yeah.
on that. That might be helpful.
Who?
On the Clean Heart Institute of the United Kingdom.
I'll come speak to you.
Yeah, he's done an awful lot on that, yeah. I think we better finish there, sorry.
No,
It's
thank you,
way over
honestly.
time, sorry, 5 minutes late.
Oh, that's nothing. Yeah, that's...
Is that normal?
Thank you.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
that's okay then.
Thank you, Patricia.
No, you're welcome,
Gosh,
yeah.
it's so well.